You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. Join Steve and his guests every week as he staggers from Georgia to Maine.
Hi, and thanks for coming back again to Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. I'm back on my own again this week and still racking up the miles. I thoroughly enjoyed spending time with Clay, and as I say, he really was a great help to me in my hike. And I couldn't have had a better 3 days. It really was great with him. But it's really nice to be back myself and making my own decisions. I had a few chats with people this week who told me that really being a solo hiker is definitely the way forward for them, because you really have to think of nobody else but yourself, and you do exactly what you want to do. And to be fair to Clay, of course, that's what he allowed me to do by saying he was just going to follow along with my hike, which was great. And I thoroughly enjoyed having time with him. And this week, as I say, I passed 625 miles, which is now pushing me towards 30% of the way there. I know that when we first started, and the first few miles were 21, I think the first few miles was 21 miles to Suches, I seem to remember. And that was 1% of the way there. The fact that I'm coming towards 30% of the way there right now is quite exciting for me. Oh, by the way, the rain has just started making a noise on the roof, and you can probably hear that, so I apologise. Now, as far as those 625 miles are concerned, yep, I do know that the hardest states are still to come, but those 625 miles still needed to be walked. I have walked them, along with a fascinating cast of characters, many of whom are becoming really like family now. There's a recurring theme to quite a few of the people I'm seeing, and I really enjoy running into them on the trail. So let's hear about the week after a few words from our sponsors, Sawyer. When I hit the trail in 2014, I soon discovered that I come with the wrong water filter. Everybody else had a Sawyer squeeze. Eventually I bought a squeeze and I loved it. I'm going again this year, and top of my list of things to buy was the new micro squeeze filter by Sawyer. Like all Sawyer stuff, it just works. You can filter up to 100,000 gallons, and their full-size squeeze filter comes with a lifetime warranty. Last year, believe it or not, more than 4 million people got clean water through a Sawyer water filter. But if you think that Sawyer is just about water filters, you could not be more wrong. Nope, they supply everything to protect you, both in the backcountry and the backyard. Protect your gear and clothes as I did with their permethrin fabric treatment, which is 100% odorless after drying. With all the ticks and bugs around, this is an absolute must. They also provide sunscreens and first aid products. Find out more by visiting Sawyer.com. Thanks, as always, to Sawyer for keeping the wheels turning on the show. It really does make a difference. I really appreciate it. And remember, those of you who want to support the show, you can find a support button on mightyblueontheat.com under the podcast page. And if you'd like to do a weekly donation or just a one-off donation, it will be gratefully received. I really appreciate it. Now, the last time you heard from me, I was at Chestnut Knob Shelter. So let's pick it up there for day number 56. Day number 56, Chestnut Knob Shelter, mile 569.7, to a campsite north of VA 615 Laurel Creek, mile 584.8, 15.1 miles. Now, I don't know if you recall, but last week I was up at Chestnut Knob Shelter. Last time I spoke to you, I was up at Chestnut Knob Shelter, and I took the time to do the podcast. I'd signal there, and I knew I wasn't going to get into anywhere with Wi-Fi for some time. So I just sat down in that beautiful sunshine and recorded stuff and sent it off to young Ryan, and he put the podcast up. I actually didn't leave, though, till about, it must have been 10:30. And then, as always, Ryan put it up pretty quickly. And by about 11, I had to stop again to put it all on Facebook. So I did leave myself quite a quite a task to do for the rest of the day, which was still 15 miles from about 11 o'clock, 11:15. And the reason that I felt comfortable with this was that there was as I mentioned, I was at Burke's Garden with this God's thumbprint, with this beautiful ridge around this indentation in the land, which was a limestone sinkhole. And so I started walking along it, and it looked nice and easy, but oh my gosh, I had forgotten about the rocks there were. So these rocks were really wearing, actually, to be honest with you. And I don't dislike being on the rocks. I think as with all bits of hiking, everything that's extended becomes more and more difficult. And I think the extended rocks really gave me some issues. I saw Cushy Life and Trigger slack packing towards me, and then later Tailgater. So I felt I was catching up with some people again, and it was really nice to sort of see familiar faces. And of course, you stop and chat, which was really giving me slide down the rhythm of my hike. I love it. I love the stopping and chatting. And I stop and chat with everybody I pass if I possibly can. But this was a day when there was a long time without water, and I struggled to get any impetus going in the day. I'm a great person for delaying. I noticed when hiking with clay, it would push me on further beyond what I would normally do. I stop at any opportunity, especially early in the day, until I get some rhythm going, and I'm really bad at that. I think I mentioned the other day, I've tried my hardest to try to not stop and keep checking gut hooks to see where I am. But it's quite difficult sometimes. You want to know how far you've got to go, but I'm trying to do it more and more. But not only was I struggling with impetus, this having a long time without water makes it more and more difficult. But I kept moving on, and I decided to have 2 lunches, which is a good idea, I think. I had one lunch on a rock where I sat and had I think it was some peanut butter, and I think I had just a dry wrap, I think. And then I came to a place called Jenkins Shelter, which was just before the last climb. As I wasn't staying at a shelter, this where I was staying was on the other side of this mountain, so I knew it would be quite a tough climb. So I went actually into Jenkins Shelter, which is only 2/10 off the trail, I guess, 1/10 off the trail, and sat there, had a proper lunch with a tortilla and some tuna. And there was a guy there. He didn't seem to be interested in chatting with me. So I then headed out and started the climb from Jenkins Shelter. And I started getting quite tired because at the top it was quite flat, which was nice, and it was a bit like a motorway. Really, it was about 8-10 feet wide, the path. It must have been an old road that vehicles must have gone down, but the trail itself sticks right to the close edge of the path. So you've got plenty of space. But it was, the rocks were gone by now, and it was just going as fast as you can along a path without too many difficulties. Then quite a steep down into the campsite, and you cross a road and this very, very fast running river. And I recall staying at this campsite back in 2014. It was quite a popular one then, and when I got there was plenty of room. There was a guy called Teach, who I've seen before, Aladdin, Fancy Pants, me, and then Roma, Crocodile, great name, who is, I've referred to him before as Logan, he's Crocodile, Pitt, and of course Gopher and Peach were there. So it was lovely to spend the time with the guys. It's almost like there were 2 separate little camping spots. I highly recommend it as a place to stop. There's plenty of space for tents. You can get a right little tent city going on, and we had that. And in fact, the second one where Roma and Pitt and Crocodile were, and Gopher and Peach, had a picnic table. So I actually took my food through to there to sit at a picnic table. I can't tell you the difference there is between sitting at a picnic table as opposed to sitting on a log low down. I just tend to set, if I sit on a log low down. So a picnic table is a real bonus. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. So that was the end of day number 56. Day 57. The campsite north of VA 615 Laurel Creek, which is mile 584.8, to Chestnut Knob Shelter, mile 603.6, as we passed the 600 miles. 18.8 miles in total. It was about a 7-mile hike from the shelter, quite an uphill hike to start with, to US 52, and something new I hadn't seen last time I was here, the Brushy Mountain Outpost. I don't recall that particular place until I actually got there. It happens all the time. You're thinking, where is this? Do I know this place? As soon as I came to it, I realised where I was, and I remember it very well in 2014. But the outpost itself was full of goodies to eat, and they did this. I had this Brushy Mountain burger. The guys had talked about wanting a bologna sandwich. I have no idea what bologna is, and I still don't, by the way. But this Brushy Mountain burger had about an inch thick fried bologna with a burger and all sorts of the other stuff that goes with a burger. I had fries and stuff like that, and I had the whole lot. I just loved it. It was great, really filled me up, gave me tons and tons of calories, which is, of course, what you need. A guy in his 40s, early 40s, maybe late 30s, turned up and he said, would you guys like a beer? So we're sitting there drinking our beers, and I was drinking mine pretty quickly when the owner of the Brushy Mountain Outpost came outside and said, I'm afraid you can't drink those here. You've got to go over there, and pointed somewhere across about 50 yards away where we could drink, because this was his commercial premises. Entirely understand, obviously. But I quickly finished mine so I didn't have to move and carried on eating. A bunch of us were sitting around. I was one of the last to leave, as I always am from camp. But I'd caught everybody up because they were all sitting there getting their various bits of food and so on. And Gopher, one of the guys I interviewed some time ago with his son Peach, had was in a bit of a quandary. His wife had a bit of a crisis at home, and he was wondering whether or not he should go back. And he had a sad look in his eyes because he felt obliged to go back in many ways, but to be honest with you, I know he's loving this so much. He and Peach are having such a blast, and so we didn't actually know whether we'd see Gopher again when we left them. So I shook hands with him. I'd washed my hands with soap and water that day, so I felt comfortable shaking hands. Normally, shaking hands with other hikers, you just touch fists together, you bump fists, because, we all know what we've done with our hands. And so I said goodbye to Gopher in the very real feeling I wouldn't see him again, unfortunately. Leaving the Brushy Mountain Outpost, there is some road walking. That's what I remembered from 2014. We'd taken a slightly wrong turn there. In fact, I took 2 wrong turns in about 200 yards. The correct path is down the road, which is quite steep, surprisingly steep, across an interstate, over a bridge that is, and then turn right further down the road. You're really going a long way down road walking. And in 2014, I turned left over the bridge and went about a quarter of a mile, maybe even half a mile out of my way before I realised there were no more white blazes. And that really annoys me, I tell you. So anyway, got back into the woods rather, and we did pass a stream. And I had a leader of water. It's almost as if I don't believe my own maps, and I should do, because really, I knew there was going to be no water for some time. It turned out there was no more water for about 7 miles actually. And I struggled with it. I was rationing out my water, but really it was getting worse and worse and worse. And eventually I found water about 2 miles before the shelter, which I filled up at. And I know how much I missed, because I drank a litre there. Then I drank another litre, nearly about 2/3 of a litre after that, filled up again, got into camp and drank the rest of it and another litre. So I was very dehydrated, as most of us were there. In camp, I found Roma and Pitt and Crocodile, and Peach and Gopher turned up. So whatever the issue was, Gopher had remedied it, or at least managed it, and was carrying on hiking. And I could see how delighted he was. I think he was delighted that we were going to miss him, but delighted he was not going after all. He's such a valuable part of it. And I tell you, this feels more and more like family all the time. You don't see them all the time, but you see that you're around them. You see them sometime during the day. You often see them at night. And it was just great to see these people once again. And there was also Ugg and Fancy Pants in the camp with us that night as well. So, as I say, feeling more and more like family and really, really enjoying it. And quite pleased to have done an 18.8 mile day again. So certainly my mileage is feeling more comfortable. I think once I get past 15, my feet do start hurting, but I am starting to take some ibuprofen right now. I feel I need it. So if I need it, I'm going to take it. And I'm just taking 2 in the mornings right now. And I'm getting there. I'm getting the miles done and I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
Hey everyone, Chrissy Funk here, aka Rebound. I am seizing this moment to ask you to support an event in an area many of us fall in love with each year. Harpers Ferry Boulevard Trail and Town Alliance and the ATC once again are throwing another fun party this April 27th and 28th. Mark your calendars. It is the 5th annual Appalachian Trail Flip Flop Festival. Again, 27th, 28th, this April. Coming down. So skip the FOMO, listen on. Embrace the weekend champion you are. It's more than just trails in Harpers Ferry and the Town and Boulevard. This event has tons of activities, workshops happening throughout the weekend. It's packed with REI workshops, educational seminars, a fun alumni shindig I'll be at. Hope to see you there. And there'll be bands, vendors, morning yoga, bird watching, ghost tours, and so much more. Okay, one more attempt at piquing your interest. As lashers, weekenders, out and backers, through hikers, we are the guardians of the trail, and this is one way for us to help spread information about protecting and embracing the Appalachian Trail. So please, help get people excited about the Appalachian Trail Flip Flop Festival. Yeah, thanks to my trail brother Mighty Blue, all the generous volunteers to make this happen, and everyone for supporting this cause and helping us spread the word. So do one thing today that centers you, because you rock. Happy hiking all. Cheers.
Day 58, Chestnut Knob Shelter, mile 603.6 to Wapiti Shelter, mile 618.1, 14.5 miles in all. Now this was to be a day of diversions, but I had an ambition for that day. And it was only going to be a 14.5 mile day, which I know a few weeks ago rather, I would have said, 14.5 miles, that's a long way. It doesn't feel like a long way at all these days. But my ambition was, and I can only tell you that if you know British people and their sports, we absolutely love football, or as you call it, soccer, as Americans call it, soccer. And my ambition today was to watch on my phone Manchester United versus Manchester City in the English Premier League. And it was something that I was really determined to do. I was hopeful that there'd be a signal at the Wapiti shelter. And so the game was going to start at 3 p.m. American time. 14.5 miles. I thought I could easily do that, by 3:15 p.m., something like that. But I also knew it was going to be this day of diversions as well. So we started out, I started quite early, well for me, which is probably before 8 o'clock. And I knew after about 6 miles, once again, it's pretty much a climb straight away. After 6 miles, there is a lovely diversion at Trent's Grocery. I went there in 2014 and I did it again today, this day rather. You get to the road and it's about a half mile diversion, so effectively half mile each way, so effectively a mile diversion. Normally I would never do that, but I knew the food was particularly good. And this time I had a bacon leg, lettuce and tomato and egg sandwich, fries and a milkshake, which was beautiful. Several of the other guys were still there. Not everybody stopped there, but quite a few of the guys stopped there. And I was hanging out with Ugg. We were eating ourselves, and we decided we were going to go on later also to the other diversion, which is a waterfall called Dismal Falls. So I headed back to the trail with Ugg, that half mile back. It was getting very, very hot. He was looking quite tired, and he said that he was feeling quite lethargic. But I got all these calories in me, and I was kind of raring to go, to be honest with you. And so we got to the turn-off to Dismal Falls. We put our packs down at the entrance there and just wandered down to the falls. And they were absolutely beautiful. I actually swam in it last time, but I'm a month earlier this time. And even though it's quite hot out, the water is freezing. So I didn't want to go in this time. But I splashed water on my face and in my hair, and it really, really livened me up, and I really enjoyed it. And Pitt was already there, and Fancy Pants were there. And Fancy Pants met a guy he'd hiked with last year, a guy called Twin, who was this red-headed guy who is, I guess, plotting his own path, really. He started in January, and about a month and a half before me, and he's at the same place as me. He seems to find places that he likes, so he hangs around there, which is kind of nice. But I then moved on with Ugg, and we were doing pretty well. And then he said, look, I'm just going to sit here and soak my feet in the river. He felt he was getting there nice and early. And to be honest with you, we were making good progress despite the diversions. And the path pretty much followed the river for quite a lot of the time as well. We kept crossing the river, these little wooden bridges, which was nice, I guess. And I managed to get lost for about 100 yards. I took this path where I knew there were two paths. There didn't seem to be any white blazes, but I thought to myself, after about 100 yards, this isn't right. I'm going the wrong way. I know I am. So I had to get back on track, went back and found a white blaze, of course, and kept going. So I was still hoping to watch the football, but I got to the shelter, zero signal. Oh, dear me, I was gutted. So I knew I couldn't watch it. But what I did, and one of the great things about being away from having any service, and I'm not complaining about this at all, is that you can't get news of these results. So I contented myself with I'd be able to watch it the next day when I hopefully had Wi-Fi at Woods Hole. So because I had no Facebook, no nothing, I didn't know the result, and I was going to hopefully watch it the next day. I was at the shelter by myself, and I liked that for a while. It was about 3:30 in the afternoon. I played a bit of music, and then two female hikers turned up. Turned out to be a mother and daughter section hiker. And I turned the music off, because I think you should turn it off if other people are there. And then Ugg turned up, and then Fancy Pants and Twin turned up. Fancy Pants wasn't, how can I put this, operating on 100% capacity. He and Twin, I think, had shared a bit of fragrant smoking earlier on in the day, and I think it had taken its toll on Fancy Pants. He was hilarious. So was Twin, actually. And Twin was particularly funny. He was saying, we were talking about various rock music and bands and so on. He said he couldn't name a single band other than the Beatles who were English. He just could not get over the fact that Led Zeppelin turned out to be English as well. He really was funny. He and Fancy Pants really livened the evening up. And we basically were just chatting around with each other till bedtime. But before I went to bed, I caught up with Ugg. I've been meaning to interview Ugg for some time. So let's hear from him. Okay, I'm here with Greg Myers, or Ugg, UGH, who I've been hiking around for some time. We met, when was it, before the Smokies?
It was in that shelter. Remember, you lost your, right at the knock, you lost your pad.
No, I did lose my pad, that's right, yeah. And so what are you doing out here? How long have you been trying to do this?
I actually started watching maybe 3 years ago, watching some of the YouTubes.
All right. And who were you watching?
I watched Dixie. I watched Sam I Am.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I watched Sam I Am. I watched Gator Miller. I don't know if you know him.
No.
There's a lot of people that I just over the years.
So what was it about the trail? Is that what made you want to do the trail, or did you read about it before?
No, actually, I had this crazy idea that when I get to retirement age, I want to try to go into retirement age being fit, physically fit. Yeah. And I was going to ride my bike.
We both look terrible right now, don't we?
Yeah, no. I was going to ride a bike down the coast, and do our cross country thing.
All right, yeah.
And I just determined, that the trail was more social, and I kind of like the social aspect of the trail.
We've had a social night tonight, haven't we?
Yeah,
we had a funny night tonight. Yeah,
pretty interesting.
Yeah. So how's it gone for you so far? You enjoyed it?
Not too bad. I section hiked a couple of years back, and then I did another section about 6 months before I started. So, and it's been good.
You do some quite good miles, don't you? You did a 22, I think it was yesterday.
My best one is 23.7.
Right.
So that's, if I want to push it, I can. I don't like big miles. I really kind of like to keep it between maybe 15 and 18.
Yeah, because you came in yesterday. You looked exhausted yesterday, didn't you?
I was exhausted. I mean, and the whole reason I did that is because I want to get myself set up for a Nero tomorrow. So.
Right. Same as me, yeah. We're going to Woods Hole. So what do you enjoy about the trail most of all?
I think the people, the zeros aren't bad, but it's a nice life to just kind of relax and take it easy. Just like you, I don't have any commitments right now, and I can take it either slow or fast, but if I get done fast, then I'll have to figure out something else to do. But
yes.
I'm sure I'll figure something out.
Yeah. And how are your feet holding up? Because my feet are starting to feel a bit battered.
I had Merrill's to begin with, and they were really good. But after they wore out, I went through one pair already. I replaced them with Keens, and I think my feet weren't just ready for those. There was too much room in there or whatever. I ended up with bad blisters. So I did go to Trail Runners, the Solomons, and they're wonderful. Can
you now describe what you've actually got on your feet right now? These have been quite amusing tonight, but a number of us have been talking about them.
So I have these big down booties. Some people describe them as like clown booties.
They are quite something, aren't they?
They're made by Baffin.
All right.
And then you can go in and search Baffin down booties. And
what's on the sole then? Is it tough enough to walk around?
There's a little bit of sole thing on there.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it is, isn't it?
It's got a little sole thing on there.
Right.
So I did wear them in camp, and these are my winter shoes. I'm changing them out tomorrow with my regular ones, but.
So you're changing all your stuff out tomorrow, aren't you?
I'm changing all my stuff out to the spring gear.
Yeah, and how much weight will that lose you?
I think I'm going to lose right around 7 pounds.
It's not bad, is it? Yeah.
That's significant for me. But
so what's your plan? When do you think you're going to finish?
I have no date.
All right. As and when?
Whenever I get done.
Because you were talking about going flip-flopping, weren't you?
Maybe flip. The only reason I do flip is so that I could miss some of the hot summer days.
It's already warm, isn't it? And it's only April.
Getting there. And then the other thing is I don't want to end up too late in Katahdin where it's really cold and snowing and just about closing. So I'm concerned about, taking too many zeros or, taking too many days off for whatever reason.
Yeah. The zeros are worth taking, though, aren't they? Don't you think? Give yourself a rest.
I love my zeros, like I said. I need those days.
Yeah.
Okay. I need them a lot.
Okay, buddy. Well, good talk to you, and thanks for talking to us.
All right. Thank you.
Cheers. Day 59, Wapiti Shelter, mile 618.1 to Sugar Run Road and Woods Hole Hostel, mile 625.4, just 7.3 miles, and I think that qualifies as a near zero. I had the best sleep I've had on the trail so far. I think I've been avoiding some of the weather and getting into hostels and so on. And not really having 3 and 4 days in the woods. This is my fourth day, I think it is, in the woods. And I think you have to do that to get used to what it's like being in the woods and getting your tent and getting comfortable and falling asleep and so on. And I really feel I did that. And I just had a glorious sleep. And the alarm woke me up this morning about 5:30. Because it's now later in the day, obviously. And it's still dark at 5:30, obviously. I got straight out of bed and started packing my tent everything that's inside my tent and packing it away into my bag. There's plenty of room in this Z-Packs, I tell you, in this duplex. I really, really enjoy it and thoroughly enjoyed packing everything up and getting out. Went to get my food, and I could see that Fancy Pants was stirring, and I knew that Ugg was getting up early as well. And so I got my food and put it on the picnic table in front of the shelter, because Fancy Pants had stayed in the shelter that night along with Twin. But Twin wasn't there anymore. So once Fancy Pants made me aware that he was actually awake and started getting up, he told me that Twin, as I said, a man who really likes to walk his own path, had hiked out at 10:30 the previous night. He decided to hike through the night. I cannot imagine what that is like, and I have no intention of finding out. But Fancy Pants was hilarious the previous night, and he was very funny again this morning. So I took the chance to have a chat with him as well.
Okay, it's 6:42 a.m. on a morning where I'm going to have a Nero into Woods Hole Hostel. I'm sitting here at the picnic table at the Chestnut Knob Shelter with Robbie Stafford, or otherwise known as Fancy Pants. Hi, Fancy Pants. How are you?
Good morning.
You're feeling good after a night in the haunted shelter.
Well,
this is not Chestnut Knob, is it? It's Wapiti.
Wapiti.
That's right, the haunted shelter, Wapiti. Yeah. How you feeling?
I've a slight hangover from my fun from yesterday afternoon.
Yes,
but I'm ready for my longest day yet, 18 point something.
Why are you doing 18 miles today? Where are you going to get to?
I'm going to get to Perrysburg.
Okay. Now, you've got one of the more unusual occupations amongst the people in the show, and you refuse, because you're a professional at this. Well, tell me about it. Let me record you earlier on.
I always make sure people know that if they pay, they can get what they want.
You really need to explain that.
No, I'm a classical musician and opera singer, and you've probably heard me say that I'd rather sing in Carnegie Hall than 3 feet away from a person casually.
I'm sure. And to be fair, I entirely understand that. So what brings an opera singer out to the trail? It's not a normal... I say that you are the first I've met, and I've done nearly 3,000 miles of hiking on the Appalachian Trail. So why is it?
Well, the initial reason in 2016 probably was simply to get over a girl and a midlife crisis. But this time, it's because, like so many of us, after that initial 1,800 miles, I'm officially addicted to trail culture, trail people. And, I mean, is the mic picking up the birds right now?
Oh, yeah, it must be, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as a musician, to wake up to this symphony of joy, and
something that
when I'm home, this is what I do dream about, is these mornings.
So what brought you back again? Because you went off last year, and you did how many miles did you do last year? Last time? No, it's 2016.
Yeah, I've done 2 installments. So
all right.
16 and skipped 17 because my feet hurt so bad. Then 18 brought me out for because I want to finish the trail. I'm driven to finish. I'm just looking for the time window that I have. But I'm redoing miles right now because Virginia's awesome.
You really like Virginia?
It's awesome.
And you're going to go to West Virginia, is that right?
I'm going to march into Harper's Ferry where my family lives.
And then you're going to leave us and go back to San Francisco, and we're going to hopefully head north from there. And you met now a mutual friend then, Clay Bodyman Evans, didn't you, when you went before?
That was pretty special. Clay has taught me a lot on trail. He's the kind of guy that can pace you up a mountain because he's in such good shape.
Yeah.
He can talk and you can listen.
A similar experience. Yeah. But you're right. He adjusts his pace for the person he's hiking with, which I think is pretty damn cool, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what will you miss when you leave here?
I will miss Well, of course, mostly the people, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what I'll miss. And I'll miss the birds, and I'll miss the trees. California has incredible nature, but we don't have these trees, and we don't have these birds, and we don't have these. We don't have the people. I've loved getting to know the South too.
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? It really is.
I mean, this California boy had no idea.
It's funny, actually. We're just starting to get, people, obviously this is an audio podcast. We're just starting to get the leaves on the trees the last 4, 5, 6 days, aren't we? And it's sprouting so fast now, isn't it?
Yeah. I love it. It's like you can see them growing by the day.
Yeah. Well, we're going to miss you when you go. So thanks for talking to us. And does that mean when you get to West Virginia, you will have completed most of it, or what will you still have to do?
Most of the trail?
Yeah.
Yeah. I still have the big boys, New Hampshire and Maine.
All right. When are you going to come back and do that?
Knock on wood next year.
You can tell he's theatrical. It's like knock on wood this year. Okay, buddy. Well, look, hope you do make it, and it's been great fun getting to know you.
Thank you, sir.
Cheers. He is, as you heard, a really quirky, very funny guy. He makes statements and says things that you can take in so many different ways. He's a very nuanced man, he really is, and very, very funny. I like him a lot, and I really hope I get the chance to hike around him for some time. As he said, he's going to be here to the rest of Virginia, so the chances are we're going to bump into each other more and more on this trail, and I'm really looking forward to that. Now, this Nero, this 7-mile Nero, started with a pretty strenuous uphill. And I'll tell you, it hit me really, really hard. I don't think I was expecting it. And it was sharper than I'd imagined it was going to be. And I was really struggling and puffing at the end. I don't think I had much for breakfast this morning. And I think to a degree that was what the problem was. At the top of the hill, there was more of that wider path I was talking about. And it was steadily up a bit and then down a bit and then up a bit. But once again, nothing too long that really, pushed me back at all. There was one, and there are very few of these, but there was one glorious viewing spot that I videoed from. I was going along the path, and suddenly we hit a few rocks, but they weren't in the way. They were just the part of the path, big rocks. And I realised it was part of a rocky outcrop, because I could see by looking to my right, only about 10 yards further into the away from the path was this little place you could sit on the rocks and just look out of this magnificent view below, which I videoed from and took photos from. So I went there for a couple of minutes. Ugg had set out before me. He's a hammocker, and he packed his hammock up much quicker than I could do any of these things. I always take so much time to get ready. That still hasn't changed, I'm afraid. So, but Ugg was ahead of me, but I saw him at a road about 2 miles before the end, and I decided to carry on. He was looking tired again. The rest of the hike, while it was downhill, which was okay, was absolutely full of rocks. I don't remember that at all. And there were times when I thought, is this the right path? There weren't that many white blazes, and you could work out the path by looking at every now and then. You could see more of the packed earth, and you could see what the path was, but it was kind of making up as you go along, it felt like, anyway. I got to the road, and that should have been the end of it. There was a half-mile walk to the hostel, and it was all downhill, which was rather nice. So you approach the hostel on your right-hand side, and it's quite a big setup. It's got a bunkhouse, it's got showers, it's got these 2 tented rooms. Kind of cool. I actually had a room booked inside the house itself, and I immediately felt at home. You take off your boots, you don't go inside with those. You can get loaner clothes, and unfortunately I couldn't find a skirt today for another bit of cross-dressing. So I had to wear pyjama pants and a t-shirt, and I've been wandering around in those since then. Had my washing done. But what I did first of all was get on to Manchester United, Manchester City on my phone, and I watched the whole darn thing. I was so relaxed. They got a porch out the front of the hostel with a beautiful wooden swing. I swung on that for about 2 hours watching the football. It was great. So I felt very, very relaxed.
I'm staying the night and I'm zeroing tomorrow because my knee is a little bit sore, a bit puffed up, and I just want to give it a bit of a rest. And then I've got not only a listener, but also one of my previous guests, Julie Gayhart, is going to hike with me from Woods Hole on Saturday morning into Petersburg. It's only about a 10-mile hike, but that would be nice as well. Now, before we finish here, please don't forget to send in some questions for me when Bruce Matson, RTK himself, comes out to hike and interview me. Send them directly to Bruce at rtkchallenge@gmail.com, and he'll pick his favourites, and he's going to send some of you a copy of his Platinum Blazing the Appalachian Trail book to a few lucky winners. And I've got to tell you, some of these places I'm finding are through Bruce's book. It's pretty darn good. Just want to say one final word about nature and spring. Nature is amazing. And I remember thinking this last time. We've been walking through some pretty desolate forests and no leaves, and suddenly it is blossoming and blooming. There are violets growing beside the path. Everything's getting greener. It feels that you can see the leaves are filling up on the trees, and this is happening so quickly in the last probably 4 or 5 days. It's accelerating. You can hear birds all the time in the forest, which is beautiful. My wildlife count is still utterly pathetic. It's 4 squirrels. That's it. Nothing else. 150 miles a squirrel. Absolutely ridiculous. But the green tunnel's soon going to be upon us, and hopefully I'll be seeing deer soon, snakes soon, and eventually bears, I guess, which I'm looking forward to seeing as well. I will be switching out to my summer gear. I think I may have mentioned to you guys that I did buy a Z-Pax, Arc Blast? Yeah, Arc Blast. And that didn't take all the stuff I wanted to take with me. I've sent some stuff back already. I'll be sending more stuff back. I'll be getting a less, sort of higher rated sleeping quilt, which I took last time, a Catabatic Gear Palisade 30, which I loved. So I'll be getting that and a couple of other things. So I'm really ready for, hiking in the summer. The warmth is upon us now. Waking up in the warmth and in your tent is just so much better than in the cold. A few weeks ago, I would have said, don't start in February. Now I think if you can take that cold for a couple of months, I'm going to be doing this and probably finishing around the end of August. So I don't think, I'm actually going to knock on wood here. Maybe you heard that. I'm going to knock on wood that I don't think I'm going to get cold weather in Maine. I might be entirely wrong. But if I finish by the end of August, I think I should be okay. And so with my summer gear going forward, I should drop quite a few pounds, and I'm looking forward to that. I'll see you next time.